Hello. Today I'm going to show you how to add two vectors together. In this case we've got a 60 Newton force acting on this object here, and I've got an 80 Newton force acting on the same object. What we're going to hopefully do is find a way to add this vector onto here, this vector onto here, to find my resultant vector. The first thing I'm going to do is measure my angles. So I've got a 6 Newton force that is acting at 55 degrees to the horizontal, so I'm going to draw on that angle there, 55 degrees, and then for my next one I'm going to again measure the angle to be 40 degrees. Okay, so I mark on my 40-degree angle. Now in order to add, I'll start with this vector 1 onto here. I need a horizontal line drawn first to measure my angle from, so I'm going to get my ruler, line it up as best I can with horizontal to the end of that arrow, and draw a small dotted line. I'm going to again do the same thing onto the bottom arrow, small dotted line along the end of my vector. I've got two horizontal lines now to draw my angles from. So in order to draw this vector onto the end of my first vector, I'm going to place my protractor, and I want to use the same angle as I did down here. So I'm going to go 40 degrees below, I come around to 40, make my mark, and now this arrow here is 80 newtons, but if I measure out the length of this arrow, it is 8 centimeters long. So I'm going to draw an 8 centimeter line from this vector through my dot to create the right length vector, and it ends there. Okay, so I can now draw my angles. I know I've got a 40-degree angle here, and it's an 80 Newton force, okay, which is also 8 centimeters. I might want to mark that on the rest of them. And I'm going to do the same steps again here. So I've got a 60 Newton force here, but if I measure it with my ruler, that is a 6 centimeter force. Okay. Now I need to add that force onto this bottom vector down here. So I'm going to place my protractor where the arrow meets my line, and I'm going to draw a 55-degree angle just here. I'm going to line those up, and again I'm going to draw a 6 centimeter line. It has to be the same size line in order for it to be the same vector. So 6 centimeters going through from my end of the vector through my dot. Okay, now you can see that my arrows don't match up perfectly, and that is because it is prone to human error. So I've either slightly incorrectly measured my length or slightly incorrectly measured my angle, but they should be pretty close together if it's drawn well. So I'm just going to mark on my angles of 55 degrees and my 60 Newton or 6 centimeter force. Okay, now my final step is to calculate my resultant force. So what I need to do is I've started at this point here, and I've finished when adding my vectors on this point where my arrows should meet. So I'm going to draw a straight line from my start to my end and measure the length of that vector. Now that I've drawn my vector, all I need to do is measure the length, and that length is 9.5 centimeters long. Okay, now I also need to measure my angle, as vectors have both size or magnitude of 9.5 centimeters, and they also have a direction. So I need an angle, and to do that I place my protractor along the horizontal line that I drew my object from, and I can see that that angle is roughly 2 degrees. So I'm going to mark on an angle of 2 degrees there, and that is below the horizontal line. Okay. So in order to find a size in newtons of my force from this 9.5 centimeters, I need to use my scale. My scale is that I've got 8 centimeters representing 80 newtons of force. Okay, so if I divide both sides by 8, I should be left with 1 centimeters represents 10 newtons of force. Now I know that I've got 9.5 centimeters, so my 9.5 centimeters must then equal 95 newtons of force. Okay. So to finish my question off, I need to write my resultant force. So I can say that the resultant force is 95 newtons, and that is 2 degrees below the horizontal. So that means at minus 2 degrees to the horizontal. Okay, I've said minus 2 because it's below the horizontal line. If it was above, it would have just been 2 degrees. I hope that helps, and that allows you to answer any adding vectors questions.